Thanks, Ed. Can you guys hear? Oh, voice of authority there. So I'm glad to be here, Ed. And Ed and I have known each other for quite a few years, and it's been a joy to work with him. So it's fun for me to be here at Michigan State facility. I'm a Go Blue guy, but lots of friends, and if Michigan isn't in it, I'm rooting for Michigan State. So just I like to kind of know who I'm talking to. We don't have time for introductions, but could you just? We got Dawn Farms here, right? Dawn Foods, all right, Dawn Foods. Notice Farms is recovery. We don't want that. That's different. I get different things. What else do we have? A few other places you guys are representing. Yazaki, okay. Okay, good. Hello. Well, you guys are on M14. Is that out that way or out 275? 275. Okay. What else do we have represented? I'm sorry? Okay, Robert Bosch. Okay, a little auto. Carhartt, good. I didn't wear my Carhartt. I should have known. Yeah, all right, good. I like those jackets. What else do we have? Michigan First Credit Union. So I get some money to buy some Carhartt. Good. And what else do we have? Okay, great. Telecom company. Pella. Okay, excellent. Good quality product, right? Yes. Another credit union. Okay, lots of money flowing. I'm sorry? Telenet, okay. Okay, wow, we got a lot of money. Those people must want to know how to get emotional intelligence into the credit union. I know this guy. Hi, how are you? So where are you working these days? Marriott, okay. Yeah. Magna, okay, so more auto, okay, very good. I've done some consulting at your group way ahead and way in the back. Excellent. Okay. So how many of you need more emotional intelligence in your organizations? Okay. Anybody have too much emotional intelligence? Not a problem. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because actually I was involved in some of the initial research back in the last century, probably before all of you were born. But in the 70s, I was a graduate student at Harvard University, which is kind of a cool thing for me because I'm from Ferndale, Michigan, so to get to Harvard was a really big deal. And I studied there with a gentleman named Dave McClellan, and Dave McClellan is the father of emotional intelligence. So he studied motivation and was a big proponent of competency-based hiring, which is now still coming into the fold. And the idea is that you really need to measure people's ability to work on the job to predict who's going to be good for the job, rather than using like written tests, which were shown to be quite discriminatory. Like in Boston, years and years of firemen and policemen were all from the same ethnic Irish group, and you couldn't break in if you were Puerto Rican or if you were black or Jewish or whatever. So, and that's because they were using a test which asked a lot of things that those folks knew very well, but wouldn't be known to other people. So he developed the idea if you're going to be a policeman, you ought to actually see if somebody could drive a car, could talk to a human being, and would test them by actually looking at what they did. And he found that emotional intelligence, he didn't call it that at that point, but the competencies that really essentially help us understand ourselves and understand other people were the really important, no matter what you were doing and no matter what the job was, that was crucial. And if you didn't have that, it was going to be really hard to get very far besides pushing a broom or just doing some kind of automatic type of job. And even in those, you had to interact with people. So if you had attitude or you had poor skills in terms of reading yourself or reading other people, you were going to be in trouble. So from that, a gentleman who I went to school with named Daniel Goleman wrote about emotional intelligence and kind of labeled it as emotional intelligence. I actually don't like the term that much because intelligence makes you feel like you can't change. You know, like if you say, okay, this person has 130 IQ, I don't mean to make it too low for you, but yeah, and is it ever going to change? No, he's always going to be a genius, And somebody else sitting over, over here who has a 100 let's say a 78 IQ, then they're going to always have a 78 IQ. They're never going to be able to raise that. So IQ in most people's minds is a fixed state. Emotional intelligence is not. You can learn emotional intelligence. As a matter of fact, you learn it every day. How many of you have kids? Okay, you're teaching your kids every day emotional intelligence. You're teaching them, and not by what you say, by what you do. They're modeling after you. So if you handle a situation with anger and outright indignation, and you're cussing and whatever, they're going to learn to do that even if you say don't cuss. How many of you have been in a store and somebody's got a kid who's making a fuss because they want to buy Legos or something, and the kid is being aggressive, and the parent is going, "Stop hitting! You can't hit!" And meanwhile they're shaking them and everything. So what is that kid learning? Is he learning that this is how you deal with is what the mom or dad is saying, or is it what they're doing? So all the time we're really engrossed in emotional intelligence. We are living it day in and day out, and teaching it as soon as our children are born, in terms of how we talk to them, how we read to them, how we read their cues. So a lot of times people say, well, I have two kids, and one was really easy, and then the other is really, really difficult. Well, is it really difficult, or is it hard to read that child? And maybe that child needs more time to be put down, or needs more time, just to be let settled. And maybe the problem isn't the child, the problem is you, in terms of thinking all children ought to be raised just like Adam was raised, the first child, so on and so forth. So you have a little doll up there. Is that your safety doll for emotional intelligence? Mascot. Okay, can I have that to use? I think it would be good luck. Yeah, pass it down. Yeah, you grab it. Throw it to this guy in the front there. You gonna put it up here for me? I think I'll feel more secure. Branded. Nice. All right. He's wearing Carhartt too, so it's cool. All right, we'll just put it right here, and that'll make me feel more secure as I'm speaking here. But I haven't been the same since I was on a trip when I was 3 years old, and I think my baby blanket got left behind in a gas station or something like that. So it's been a rough road ever since then. So I feel better now. So what is emotional intelligence? Let's talk about it. By the way, I made this statement about talking to one another, and I'm going to ask you during this talk to talk to people, and rather than asking you questions, I'm going to ask you to think about questions and talk in groups of 3. Okay, but I don't want you to talk to anybody you know in that group of 3. And each time I break, I want you to move to somebody else. So I'm going to get you up and moving. And you're the first thing you need to do, and I teach this to my students at Michigan. I teach both in the business school undergrads, seniors, and then I teach graduate students in the School of Engineering. And what I always say is, the first thing you do is introduce yourself and spell your name. Now, why is that? Well, it's because a lot of people have names that are not easily recognizable, and it's very hard for us to remember names. So, for example, in my School of Engineering class, I had probably a third from India, maybe another third from the rest of Asia, and a third U.S. So they don't get names, and you got to spell it out and maybe say it sounds like whatever. So, Mark, yours is fairly easy, but you could say something, Mark, like something you put on the paper, a piece of paper, a little clue to help you remember. Because one of the keys of emotional intelligence is to be tuned into people, and there's no better way to be tuned into people than to know their name. So you've all had the situation where you've been introduced to somebody, and then a third person comes along, and you say, and you don't want to stop and say, I don't really remember this person's name, so you get embarrassed. But if you take a little bit of time, that could get you farther than almost anything in life, just to remember people's name. And I'm including service staff that maybe is at your office, the people that clean your office. You want to get super cleaning, remember their name. Remember a little fact about them. But you need a cue to do that, because that's the way the brain works. So for Mark, it's like make a mark on a piece of pencil, on a piece of paper, whatever it might be. So I'm going to ask you as we go along to do that, and we're going to go back and forth during this presentation. Ed, how long do we have? To 10:30, is it? 10:45. Okay, good. All right, so So, as I said, emotional intelligence is a set of competencies, and it's all about relating to people. It's what you use to relate to people. So it plays a key role in success, as I said, and the research on it says it's more important than intellectual ability. So IQ and EQ, if you just take a number, of course you can't get a number for EQ that easily, but if you just say high, low, medium, it's a better predictor of success than is actual IQ. And I actually find that it's not necessarily a better predictor of success for technical competence. So let's say somebody's in finance. I mean, you got to have finance. You're not going to just get a finance job by being charming and getting along well. But to get advanced, to get to be management level, leader level, that is all about EQ. And more and more today, as we're learning, and things change quickly, the only consistency and the only thing we haven't really figured out how to put into artificial intelligence and eliminate your job is the people skills. And it's probably going to be a long time before a computer can match people skills. It won't be that long till they match driving skills, ability to drive a car, probably be within 10 years. But I think in your lifetime, the computers aren't going to replace your ability to get people, to understand how to motivate people, to learn how to manage your emotions, all those kinds of things. So here are the 4 competencies. And the first one, I think, is most important, and that is self-awareness. And if you've read literature, you know, wherever you go, Shakespeare, the Bible, it's all about know yourself, know thyself. And that's really the key, because if you don't get yourself, you can't get other people. And you know people who don't get themselves. They're distorted in the way they think about themselves. They see themselves completely different than how other people see them. And they just seem to be out of touch with who they are. They don't have a good sense. We call it authenticity. We call that being tuned in, self-aware. There's a lot of topics. And I'm writing about this now. I've got an ebook that I'm trying to finish in time for the first semester of school to start in a few weeks. And it's called Self-Awareness, the Path to Well-Being. Because I really believe that if you think about well-being as having a good life, being self-aware is probably the key thing. If you don't get yourself, you're probably not going to understand how to do a lot of things that are going to lead you a good life. You may get rich, you may do this or that, but you're not going to really feel fulfilled and well in your life if you don't have a good sense of self-awareness. After that becomes getting other people. How do you read other people? We call that in some ways empathy. We've discovered that there now are things in our brain called mirror neurons. And if you read about that, they're essentially neurons that fire in our brain that enable us to get other people. And some of us have those more well-developed than others, but we can read. You know, they say, how many of you have to hire? How fast do you think you make a decision, really, about whether a person is the right person or not, or at least should be in the mix? How long do you think it takes you? 5 minutes, okay. Anybody think that's too short? Anybody think that's too long? How long does it take you guys?
30 seconds or less.
30 seconds. Boy, I'm not going to apply for a job there. I straighten my tie. You know. And what do you think? Why so quick? What happens?
Well, I'll reference. It was already previously referenced, but Malcolm Gladwell, I'm a huge fan
Yeah.
of his, a lot of his research in Blink, and it's scientifically proven that we make that kind of judgment in even less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And going a little bit more technical in depth, knowing a position, you've spoken to the hiring manager, you know exactly what you're looking for, you know the key words. If you don't see those on a resume, the other key thing or these things that you cue into,
Yeah.
the format, the words they use can tell you the articulation of the individual, can tell you the level of professionalism in the individual, and then looking for those technical skills, those key words, you can make a pretty snap decision. And
You think that's good? Can I get this? I don't know who's helped me out, but just get this mic set up because I'm going to move around a little bit. Do you think that's good that you make the decision in 30 seconds? Or?
Well, based upon some of Malcolm Gladwell's research, like when he was looking at couples in marriage, and looking just at facial expressions and the various muscles that you have in your face and the interaction within believe it was within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
He had about a 95% confidence, being able to tell if they were going to serve that.
How'd your marriage work out so far? No, you don't have to answer that. You don't have to. Oh, okay. I hate to tell you this, but you've missed your wedding already. It's already August. Small detail. So first impressions are good. I would not be married, and I'm married now 46 years because this is take you back. You're welcome. And it's all due to my emotional intelligence and good looks. But 47, let's see, it was almost 1967, so 49 years ago, I was a student at University of Michigan. I was just transferred up there, and I was in an apartment with a bunch of my friends. And next door were some 4 girls from Grand Rapids that also, we were from Oak Park and Ferndale, and they were from Grand Rapids. They had also transferred to Michigan. And my friend Craig told me, these kind of cute girls, and we're driving up from Detroit, we're going to go meet them right away. So I put on my very cool, this was like getting early into the hippie days. So I wore my little cool hat, and I had a pipe. And I walked in over the precipice, and I caught my foot on the entrance to the doorway. My pipe fell out of my mouth into my hand, and the burning tobacco. I said, "Oh shit!" So if there was that first 30 seconds, Pat never would have thought, unless she wanted a guy that was that goofy. That was it. So she'll tell you that story. It's actually true, and weird. Of course, she made a great impression too. She was sitting on the top of the couch, like not on the couch itself, but on the top of the couch, and her hair were in huge rollers, like the big rollers back in the '67. So, but she was really cute. Even that, she could pull all that off. So that's the second part, is that social awareness, being aware of other people. The third part, the self-management, is obviously a key thing. Is how do you control yourself? And we're in an election now. People are scrutinizing our candidates, and one of the things they look at is this person capable of self-control. Can they stay on topic? Can they, not get peeved really quickly? Can they hold their composure? Can they, do they blurt out things that they shouldn't blurt out? Do their emotions just rise to the surface, good or bad? It could be not just anger. It could be like they get funny and they get silly too quick, or they never show their emotions or whatever. So that whole idea of how do you manage yourself, how do you control yourself, it's a huge area. What kind of decisions do you make? And decisions also are made very quickly. As a matter of fact, research on the brain says that we don't actually make decisions consciously. Have anybody heard this research? I don't know if it's in Gladwell, but we act, and then our mind makes up the reason why we act. So, first we think, that muffin there, do I want that or not? No, my body's already decided. Have you ever had I got some ice cream in the freezer, but I'm not going to eat that ice cream, right? You ever told yourself that? How many times have you succeeded once you got the thought that the ice cream is in the freezer of not eating it? About 0, right? Because your mind is already made up. Once it's actually thought about that, your body's going there, and willpower really doesn't kick in. And so your mind really makes up decisions before you have conscious. And if you want to think about that, think about driving and how quickly you react to a car cutting in front of you, or a kid on a bike. I mean, you don't have a chance to think, there's a kid on a bike. I think I will hit the brake real hard right now. No, it's done. And then the emotions come out, and the thought comes out, what a stupid kid. Where's the parent? Why aren't they? Blah, blah, blah. But all those thoughts are after. So a lot of the way we've been thinking about emotionality and decision-making really is wrong. And the more we study the brain, the more we realize that a lot of it is automatic. And so we need to work on controlling ourselves, understanding ourselves, so that we can intervene quickly, because our mind is telling us what to do almost impulsively. I call that the lizard brain. Do any of you have lizard brains? How many of you think you have part of your brains that's like a lizard? And we all do. I mean, our brains are evolved from basically the first creatures that crawled out of the ocean, and from bacteria essentially, which is like several billion years old. And our brains are built upon the brains of primitive part. We still have the part of our brain that's a lizard brain. And often in emotionality and in our actions, our lizard brains turn over. So go home and tell your spouse, I don't want to talk to your lizard brain today. No, better yet, say, I'm sorry, that was my lizard brain talking. My real self says, and actually that happened to me the other night. I have a leg problem, and my leg was really hurting, and my wife, this was like 9:30 at night, and my wife said to me, oh, I'm sorry that your leg is hurting. Why don't you stretch? And the last thing I felt like doing was stretching. So I said something snappy back to her, like, you don't understand, you're just trying to do something. I mean, I said something, and then I didn't realize, well, I probably realized that I did this, and then the next morning she said she was offended by it, and kind of I said, I'm sorry. And I probably could have said, that. I think I did say, that was reactivity. That wasn't really how I feel toward you. I appreciate you being concerned. I appreciate you giving me good advice about things. I just was in a shitty mood, and I just, blurted it out. But that's lizard brain behavior. And again, other than Ed, most people have that lizard brain, and you've evolved beyond it, right? Yes. You had it cut out. Okay. All right. So then the last part, and these aren't all separate, by the way, is relationship management. So you understand yourself, you understand others, you manage yourself, but then you have to manage others. And there's that term management in there, and many of you are in management. But you also have to manage others all the time. I mean, you're managing relationships, whether they're intimate relationships like your family, or they're relationships. Can you still hear me okay? Is this still going? Yeah. Relationships such as the CVS clerk who seems to be taking too much time, and you're trying to get out of there in a hurry, and that's a relationship. Your relationship with your pets even, all of those are relationships that you have to manage. And they're all different because everybody we meet is slightly different. So if I'm talking to Mark, I might talk differently than if I'm talking to Brittany. Okay, so and the brain has to really operate quite quickly on these things. And the more conscious I think we could get about it, and the more we can try to develop it, it's almost like a muscle. I mean, many of us work out, we go to the gym, but we don't work out our emotional life. We don't really work on. We're learning as we go, but we don't stop and read. We don't stop maybe and meditate. We don't stop and take an assessment that tells us a little bit about ourselves. So I want to move now into some things about ways that you can know your emotional intelligence and ways that you can improve it. All right? By the way, as I'm doing this, I'm doing all these things too. I'm trying to manage myself. When I got here, I was a little hungry. I got here a little bit late, so I had to have food. I'm trying to understand who's my audience. I asked you who you are. Now I'm trying to gauge: are you guys with me? Are you, are you tuning out? Are you bored? Are you interested? So these things happen all the time. And when you're teaching or managing, whatever, you have multiple levels of operation. I'm going to skip through these. I think I've said all. Oh, I'm going backwards. Okay. So the first thing is, how do I know myself? And this is about the self-discovery. You could kind of ask yourself this. Do I know how I feel from moment to moment? Can I name my emotions? And you think, well, that's pretty easy. Well, I in my career, I've worked a lot with men in psychology. And men are not taught the language of emotion. So I remember one guy that I was working with who was going through a divorce, and his wife said he's kind of clueless, and she was going to divorce him. So I remember after working with him several weeks, he said to me, Rob, you've really helped me. When I first came in, I thought there were two emotions only. I said, well, what was that? I said, good and bad. I could feel good or I could feel bad. And by the time he got done with me, he had added a third, like, I could feel, no, I'm kidding. He hopefully added a lot more. I actually gave him one of those little kitty photo charts, that has all the emotions on it. He had to point, maybe you're feeling, you think you're feeling angry, but maybe you're frustrated, or you say you're frustrated, but maybe you're angry. So that very simple thing, there's a lot of variance in terms of how much people get, even to identify what a feeling is. If you think about it, it's pretty complicated. You have a feeling; it's in your gut. It's in, how do you translate that into a word? That kind of makes us unique. I mean, you never hear a monkey saying, naming a feeling. They might act it out, but they don't name a feeling. What motivates you? And out here, we're going to do the first little test here. So I find there are 3 types of motivation, primarily. There's more than 3, but 3 big chunks. One is you could be motivated to achieve. And by achieve, I mean short-term achievements. So small wins are what motivates you. You start your day, you do a checklist, and you want to get those things checked off. It doesn't matter whether those are big deals or but you get gratification of checking things off. You like making lists. When you're playing sports, you like to, know the score. You keep score on things a lot. That's an important motivation to achieve. It doesn't necessarily mean you had to take big risks or small risks. You'd like to find sort of immediate risks and achieve at those. That's first emotion. It's called NACH, need for achievement. Okay. Second motivation, NAF, and that's need for affiliation. And that motivation is, I really like to be part of things with people. I don't like to be left out. I need, not necessarily intimacy, but I need to be with people. I like closeness with people. I like to be perceived as part of things. For example, it's important for me, like at credit unions and banks, everybody's, they got a lot of VPs, and they feel like, okay, well, we belong, I'm a VP, that kind of, I'm a part of the team. But there's also then the third one, so that's NF. And the third one is NPOW, and that's N, need for power. And when I say power, people go, oh, that's bad. I mean, some people go automatic, oh, we're not supposed to. Well, actually, it's not bad at all. It's very crucial for most people who are successful to want to achieve influence over other people. When it gets bad is when you influence people in a bad way. I mean, if you try to take people down a path that is, your agenda and is bad for them, and you want power, and you're manipulating them to get power. But the need for power is not bad. And so again, it comes in like, I want a title, I want a position, I want certain status in my community, I want to live, for example, would you rather live on the biggest house in a relatively lower middle neighborhood? Or would you rather live in the smallest house in an upscale neighborhood? So that's kind of, how do you define status? If I'm in Ann Arbor, is it okay for me to be in a small house in Burns Park, which is the big place, and it's the most expensive, right? Or would I rather be out in the, Ypsi Township and have a huge house, so it's that kind of thought, how do you define? So we all have need for all 3 of these, but what I want you to think about is rank ordering those for yourself. And usually, 2 are pretty clear. 1 is like, that's not me. So if you think about need for achievement, NH, need for power, and need for affiliation, rank order those. And then I want you to turn to somebody, let's just do it 2s for time's sake, that you don't know, and you can get up to do this. We're going to break up these, Magna groups over here or whatever, and get out and talk to somebody else. So just stand up and find somebody you don't know and tell them why you ranked yourself the way you did. Okay, everybody stand up. We're going to actually move around. It's good for you to stand. So, all right, let's see. Gentleman in the red here. Can you tell me the names of the people you're talking to? Don't look.
This is Anna.
Anna. Okay, you get it right, Anna? Perfect. All right. All right. And now, one other thing in terms of understanding yourself, and this is in my book, is like personality. And how many of you taken Myers-Briggs? Okay, so Myers-Briggs. There's a lot of different measurements. I actually like something a lot better. And if you look up OCEAN, OCEAN, It's a personality test that's actually scientifically based. The Myers-Briggs is not scientifically based. It's just kind of made up. And it works for people because it's so popular, but it's got definite problems. And part of the problem is it labels you. And I don't, we're all on a spectrum. We're not labeled. So just for example, everybody stand up now. One of the dimensions is introversion extroversion, okay? So place yourself, if I'm right down the line, this is like somebody who is half extroverted and half introverted. You can't be on that line. Nobody is half and half. You got to. So I want you to move to where you think you are on this spectrum. Mark, where would you be?
11.
More
Yeah,
extrovert.
more on the
Extra. Yeah, I would hope you say so. Okay. So Mark, you go over to where you are. How far over? Would you go all the way to the wall there?
I have to walk through the wall.
Go ahead. Yeah. All right. All right. So Mark's walking through the wall. Anybody extremely on the other side? Not telling it. Yeah, that's right. What am I thinking? All right, so suppose, what's your name? Jen. Well, she's got too good of a, Jen, she said it. She's not too introverted. But let's say you said, Jen, you'd be way over there. So I just want you to move where you'd be if you had to put yourself on the extroversion-introversion scale. All right, so what attributions you make about these people? One is that they're going to talk more. They're talking more. What attribution you make about these folks over here? Quiet. What else? How did they spend a Saturday night? Reading, okay. And what do they do on a Saturday night? Party time. They're all together at they're traveling as a pack. Yeah. So this is just one simple cut on, but it wasn't that easy, was it? I mean, when somebody says, are you extroverted or introverted? Well, I always get, sometimes I'm introverted and sometimes I'm extroverted. Okay, well, where are you on the personality scale? Where were you, when you were 18 years old? I mean, because again, is there movement? A lot of times I get people who are in my classes who put themselves on the introvert scale and say to me, Dr. Pasek, help me become more extroverted. I'll say, well, okay, if you're over there, I might be able to move you 2 spots over, with lots of exercise, but you're better off accepting that you're quiet. There's a great book out called Quiet. All you guys ought to read it. It says why introverts are better people than better human being, make a better contribution to society. So it's a good book called Quiet. So, but we are a society that loves, the people who are, we love them for a minute until we could tear them down, the people who are real outgoing, And then we're looking for some kind of flaw and they're outed and, I knew that person was not good, So, all right, so that's one quick take. Let's do another quick take. Up by, what's your name on the camera there? Jane? Okay. Jane, if you're, this side of the room we're going to say are people who are flexible in their personalities. And that is they're flexible and they can roll with the flow, they can make changes pretty quick. Matter of fact, they may even like change if they're extreme. They like new music as opposed to listen to the oldies. They like kind of more cutting edge kind of things. They're more flexible in their view, open-minded, but they like change. They don't necessarily have to be liberal. They could be flexible but still be in wanting new kinds of experiences, get bored easily, seek stimulation. On this side would be more of the people who are like structure. And they're people who are not quick to adapt to change. They like things to be consistent. I have a friend who's pretty high on this end. He puts out every night, and as long as I know him, he puts out the dishes for breakfast. And he gets his table all set for him and his wife. And, gets the coffee set to go and the cereal on the table. My wife and I don't even know when we're getting up or if we're going to have breakfast. So we look at him and like, really? You do? And you go into his closet. His closet is neatly arranged from the darks to the lights. I thought I was wearing black pants this morning. I got here, they're blue. So you could tell where I am here. So if you're kind of like where you would be in terms of that side, just go. If you're up the stairs, you go more toward the flexible type personality. If you're down the stairs, you're more of the. This side is flexible, structured. That's extroverted, introverted. Where do you go on that grid? Put yourself. So again, can I ask you where you would be in that?
Well, if I'm going to go with the extrovert, I need to go over this way.
That way, and where? And you're right on the line where you are now. So you're more sort of in the middle, a little bit more structured than flexible.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is where Sherry. Yeah. This is where Sherry would be. Where would you be? Right where you are, or? Okay, so you're pretty close to the middle. Like you got a little bit of everything. You must be a CEO then. Just right in the center. All right. So everybody just put themselves on the grid. Is everybody where they would be now? Okay. So this would be down here would be more structured, more introverted. Okay. Over here would be, yeah. So if you think about this, so up there would be just how this works out in a workplace generally. I'm really using gross generalizations. So up there would be flexible, extroverted. Those kind of people you tend to find like in marketing, sales somewhat. They're usually externally facing. I mean, they're not people that like to be in the office. They like to be out with customers. They like to be interacting. They're generally, because they're flexible, they're reading about trends. What's the future? They're not living in the, they're in the present, but they're thinking about what's coming. I mean, they might, they're a little bit more trendy, outgoing. They like to talk to me. Did I get most of you right in that quadrant? Okay. See, I'm a psychic as well. So, and I see that you're going to be married on July 2nd. Who is? Oh, yes, right here. If you're lucky. And then down here we have the people that are more extroverted and more structured, correct? Yeah, and you guys are kind of into. Actually, this tends to be salespeople, because salespeople. Are you sales? Okay. Are you sales? No. Okay. What are you doing there? So, because the salespeople versus marketing people tend to be follow a process. Marketing people is a little bit, kind of more ad hoc. Whereas salespeople have to follow, you find the lead, you create rapport, you find pain. I mean, you got to go through a structured process. You don't want to be too flexible, especially if you give away lots of things that you can't sell, and then the IT people are really angry. We can't produce that, right? Over here, we have more of the structured, introverted. And you tend to find these people more in finance. Accounting, I don't know if that fit for you guys. It's more, they like repeatable tasks. They like things that are more predictable. They don't necessarily seek out customer-facing kind of activities. That doesn't fit for you guys, okay? What do you do?
I work on data, surveillance for ASE.
Okay, well, data would also fall into that. Now, if you were working on data, if you're a programmer and creating software, then you'd be more an innovator. But if you're sort of following things and keeping things going, these are people that keep things going. They're the ops people usually in an organization. Up there, that's tend to be more of the people. I mean, they're introverted, but they're flexible. So a lot of times they're in HR or I don't know if you are. Okay, how many of you in HR? Wow, see, I'm doing pretty well. So, all right, you can all sit down, but you get an idea. So we did that in about 10 minutes, okay? That's something you could do really easily with your teams. There's no reason why you can't, just with that kind of questions, ask your teams where they fit. And it's kind of interesting because then you get into, well, how do you, if you're over here, how do you talk to people over there? And because you can't have opposites. Usually, for example, the HR people and the sales people are kind of opposites. It's the, how did I get this right? It's the people who are more finance and the people who are more innovation usually are at conflict, because those people that are more innovation are always trying to push change, which costs money and takes risk. The finance people say, show me the return on investment on that. So, and then likewise with the HR people and sales people, that's sometimes at odds with each other. All right, so you get the idea. This is all about self-discovery, and this is all about yourself, because all the data that you've given me comes from your own head. We haven't done anything yet to ask anybody else. And what's the problem with this? The problem is that we don't read ourselves all that well. So a lot of times our self-perceptions are off, and we see ourselves in, we make a nice story up about ourselves, but it's not necessarily the story that other people have about us. So one of the other pieces of my process in self-discovery is understanding how other people see you. I'm going to jump to that one here. How well do I manage and understand others? Do I know how others feel? Can I feel how others feel? What do we call that when you feel as others feel? What's the term for that? Empathy. Okay. So again, I find that one of the difficulties that we have with emotional intelligence is that no matter how well we think we know ourselves, whether we're a Tibetan monk and we sit on a mountain doing meditation, or we're a salesperson running around a marketplace, the research seems to show most people, their self-perception is different than how they are perceived by other people. And a lot of times people do these online tests and they get back results and they say, oh my God, how did the Myers-Briggs know that about me? They pegged me right. Well, you gave the Myers-Briggs people the data. So of course it's going to come back reflecting what you said. Now they maybe put it into an algorithm that was a little different, but essentially they just broke it up into categories. But if you give people 360s, which I don't necessarily advocate, and I can explain why, but I don't advocate 360, but all of a sudden people say, wow, that's not how I saw me. Who said that about me? And they get indignant, like, how could you say that about me? I know who it was. It was George. He always thinks that about me. He's the only one that doesn't like me. Well, it doesn't mean that they don't like you. It's just that they see you differently than you see yourselves. And those of you, again, that are married, you have kids, siblings, a lot of times you get feedback that, wow, I'm really different. I was talking to a woman the other day. It's in one of I run small groups for leaders. 10 people per group, meets once a month. And this woman said to me, oh, I had a funny experience. I was driving with my brothers and my mother and one of my daughters, and we were talking about people who are high maintenance or low maintenance. And I said, wow, I don't get these high maintenance people. I'm such a low maintenance person. And everybody in the car turned around and said, what are you thinking? You are the most high maintenance sister, daughter, mother that we know. So here she is thinking she's really laid back and easy and no problem. And everybody else in the car, who the people that knew her well, thought she was high maintenance. So that's just an example. And this is a pretty together person. She's a very high level executive at a university. So, I find experiences like that all the time. And what I do, and you could do this again, is you can ask for feedback sometimes on how do people see you. It's not so easy to do. You can't just walk up and say, hey, tell me what you think about me. It's a little awkward. But I have my coaching clients send out an email to people and say, tell me what you think my strengths are. That's not such a hard question to answer because you're not criticizing somebody. You're just saying, this is what I think my strengths are. Or tell me, I'm in a coaching session, tell me when you think I was at my very best. And it's interesting that what you think about yourself when you were at your very best may not be what somebody else thinks about when you were at your very best. Because you may think about when you were at your very best at something you wanted to be very good at. But it may be that somebody else appreciates something about you that's very different. So, it's kind of an interesting exercise and something you can do. I'm going to move along here to a couple other things you can ask about your relationships, how you manage relationships. And this outline will be available online to all of you, so you don't have to write everything down here. But these are some questions to ask yourself and reflect on. Can I get along with other people one-on-one and on a team? Can I manage people well? Can I read a group? Can I manage conflict? A lot of people, I had somebody that I talked to yesterday that said she had trouble managing conflict, and I had a first meeting with her, and I thought she was meaning that she got angry. No, she meant that she got easily intimidated, that she felt like people were kind of bullying her. So that's another sign of not managing conflict well. And you can see some people that always get along well with people, they don't have any enemies, they're friends with everybody they ever met, and other people that seem to have a series of bad luck. They're always tangling with somebody, and they're writing somebody off, and downing somebody. I always distrust when I'm with somebody and they're telling me something like, man, this person is really difficult, you know, or I don't know how that person is president of this company, you know, he's terrible. I can't believe they selected that new person to be HR director. But you, Rob, you're terrific, you know. And I'm always thinking, well, what are you saying about me when, you know, I'm not with you? Are you telling people I'm terrific? Or are you also giving me a negative spin, depending on what happens? So, you know, you learn who to trust and who not to trust based on what their history is. And, you know, are they critical of people all the time? Are they putting people down? Are they, you know, playing bad jokes on people and saying, oh, I'm just joking? Or are they, you know, actually sincere and nice to people? A lot of research on teams comes down to that nice factor. People who do better on teams that do better, they're nice to each other. They're respectful to each other. It's not about, oh, we have a lot of open conflict and we rage at each other and then we go out and have a beer. No, it's usually the research. And Google just did a long study on this, and this is what they came up with after lots of different permutations on it. It's people who are nice and respectful that get along well on teams. And if you're going to teach team building, teach respect. Teach people how to respect each other, appreciate differences. I just demonstrated some major differences in personality in 5 minutes. People who are extroverted may have more difficulty getting along with opposites. They also may have more trouble getting along with themselves, you know, because they are both all extroverted. So if you understand your personality and you understand the people that report to you or you report to, you're going to be far more ahead on emotional intelligence. So I'm going to go now to how do you improve your emotional intelligence? I'm going to skip this. So number one, and to improve emotional intelligence, I think, is to practice some form of self-reflection. These days, meditation and mindfulness is popular. There's a lot of courses on that. That's a good way. Writing about your feelings is a good way to do this. I've been keeping a journal for years, but it's not a journal about what happens in my life, but it's when I get upset about something, I write down, what am I telling myself that's making me upset? Because it's, you know, it's not necessarily about the other person. You know, oh, you're always making me mad. How can you do this? But it's usually about what you're saying to yourself about what's happening. Another is, you know, you see the bumper sticker, shit happens. Yeah, but it's how you think about it that really makes you happy or unhappy. You know, you could get enraged because somebody cut you off on the freeway, and your action then is to go tailgate that person, and it's going to get you in trouble. Or you could just say, sorry, that person had a bad day, or he must have had a bad upbringing, or must really be in a rush to get some, whatever it might be, and you could calm yourself down. And that happens with virtually everything. So the journal that I've kept, going back to like 1965, is these stories about if something happens, I ask myself, what happened? How was I thinking about it? What was irrational about the way I was thinking about it? By irrational, I mean a thought like, I can't stand it when people don't like me. What's wrong with that statement? I can't control how people feel about me. Nobody is perfect and everybody's going to like me. There's people that aren't going to like me because of the way I look, my religion, how I act. You know, I remind them of a person in their life that, you know, they don't like my politics, whatever it might be. So another one might be, I can't stand it when I make mistakes. It's awful to make mistakes. What's wrong with that thought? Why?
It's just the fact of life that, you know, you're not going to be perfect.
Well, you're not going to be perfect, and not only that, but you learn through mistakes. I mean, we're all a product of mistakes. It's called evolution, right? Something worked, something didn't work. And, you know, if we don't try things and don't break out of our normal pattern, we never learn anything. So if you think it's terrible to make mistakes and you don't want to take a risk because the risk may lead to a mistake and you don't think you can handle that, you're not going to move very far. You have to be willing to take a risk, make a mistake, learn from the mistake, move on. I think about my coaching as teaching people a series of experiments. I don't know what's going to help Mark, but I might say to Mark as he's leaving a coaching session, Mark, you're having this trouble with your direct report. Why don't you try this month and see what happens? And you come back and you say, Well, that was a disaster. How did you even think that would work? Or you say, hey, that was right on. By being a little more positive with that person, I was able to create more rapport, and I realized that I had an attitude that was my problem. So I really emphasize this whole idea of writing, meditating, but it's about yourself. It's not about the other person, because we can't change anybody. We can't even really change ourselves more than a few iotas, a few genes not genes, but a few cells at a time. So if we think we're going to change our kid or our wife or even our dog, we're not likely to have much success. I always say you could teach a dog to sit a lot easier than you could teach a dog to stay. So it's kind of one step at a time. And then another way of practicing self-reflection is not just self-reflect, but talk to other people. Have conversations where you actually talk about yourself and talk about things and share stories where you screwed up or you're having difficulty. And I have a lot of friends, but a lot of them are not real close friends, but friends that I meet with maybe once, twice a year, 2, 3 times. And I make a point when I sit down with those people not to keep it superficial, because they have a lot of wisdom. And so I'll talk about something that maybe is troubling me, and a lot of times I'll get feedback or I'll hear their story and they'll say something that is really helpful. Another category is setting goals. If you're going to increase your emotional intelligence by actually committing to some goals. And I don't mean setting 50 of them, I mean 2 or 3, because it's really hard to make changes and set goals. But by setting goals, you're learning. You're learning what's working, especially if you're keeping data. The research on losing weight, which is probably the most common goal people set, the best strategy, it's not Weight Watchers, it's not Jenny Craig, it's weighing yourself every day and writing down and graphing which way are you going. Because, it's data, it's feedback to yourself. And, if you were 167 yesterday and you ate, 5 cream puffs and ribs and fries for dinner, and you get on the scale the next morning and you've gone up 2 pounds, the scale doesn't lie to you. So after a while, if you just track that, that's probably the best way. And that's true for almost any behavior change. You need to track, and I actually like to graph, what direction are you going in. Number 4, be aware of faulty thinking. I must be right all the time is another one of these examples. I must never admit vulnerability. That's a big one for men. I never admit I'm lost. Never admit that I made a mistake. Another one is I must be loved and approved of by everyone all the time. I think that's one, if I had to make a gender difference, the one about never being vulnerable is more male, typical, but the one about being loved and cared for is more women. And that has to do with our socialization, because women are raised a little bit more, and maybe it's not so much today, that your value is based on the quality of your relationships. Men are raised, your value is based on your achievements and your power structure. So to admit that you're not achieving something or that you don't have power is to give up your manhood in a way. Number 5 is avoid counterattacking. You all know what that is? So for example, if you say to me, I didn't like the way you talked to me about that in our conversation. You're reporting to me, and you say, I didn't like the way you talked to me about that, Rob. I felt offended by that. And I could say, what's your name? Amber. I say, I could try to understand. Let me understand that. I'm sorry about that. Or I could say, well, I didn't like the way you talked to me either. And, then I'm a counterattack. As a matter of fact, who do you think you are to talk to me? So you see arguments often escalate because you try to one-up the person and counterattack. It's really like a duel, and somebody's going to get shot in that process. So I think one way, again, to increase your capacity for relationships is to listen better, listen more, talk less. There's any of you been following this sensation of Hamilton, the play? It's a great soundtrack for Hamilton. Has anybody listened to the soundtrack of it? It's very good, but one part, Aaron Burr shoots Hamilton, but when they're very young, he supposedly says, Hamilton's a very brash young guy. You know, he's a nobody who really made it big, whereas Aaron Burr is more of a landed gentry type, you know. So Aaron Burr gives Hamilton advice, and he says, talk less, smile more. Thinking, oh, okay, that's if you're brash and want to get ahead, that's probably not good advice. But if you're a manager, it's not bad advice. And I don't know the smile more, but I would say listen more. Talk less, listen more. I'm just going to jump through these next couple. Active listening, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's kind of the same thing. Ask questions. No, it's not always about you. I mean, I think that, again, the way we're wired is to believe the whole world revolves around us and everything that happens is about us. And in fact, you know, we're not really much of a blip on anybody else's screen. And anything that we're really worked up about isn't likely to make, it might make Facebook, but it's not likely to make any newspaper headline. So we're all embarrassed about something, or we're all upset about a mistake we made, or the way somebody treated us. And in the big world, it's nothing. It's really nothing. There are some things that are not nothing, like loss and illness, death, things like that. But most things that we get worked up about are not. So again, that losing your ego, again, it's another thing. Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, all talk about, it's you're not God. I mean, it's another way to think about it. I don't know who I am, but I know I'm not God. There's some power more important than me, and that I'm a small atom in this big universe, and I can't get all worked up about me personally. And then again, this last one about the two spectrums. So Ed, we just have a few minutes left. Is that right? No more time for interact. We do another conversation, or?
We could do 5.
All right. So on these 10, I'm going to go back through them. Pick one, and I'm going to ask you to work on one of these for a month. And you're welcome to, if you want feedback from me, you can email me. My email's on the form there. I think they've got that, right, Ed? Access to that?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to guide you with this. I'm happy to, my new book will be out probably about the first week of September. I'm happy to get that to you. But pick one of these. Practice some form of self-reflection. Work on setting goals. Be aware of emotional flooding. The moment your emotions, you turn into the lizard brain. That's another way of emotional flooding. Be aware of faulty thinking, how your assumptions trip you up. Avoid counterattacking. Practice active listening. Seek first to understand. Know it's not about you. And realize that we are these two spectrums. So each of you pick one, and then just turn. Now this one, since we don't have time to really move around, just turn to somebody near you, or don't get out of your seat, and tell them what you chose, why you chose it, and then exchange emails. And check back with that person next week to see how you're doing. It's going to be your accountability buddy, okay? So again, let's not do it with somebody you know, but just try to find as close to you as you can, somebody you don't know. Tell them what your commitment is. You're going to work on this one thing. Ed, how much time do you need to wrap up?
We wrap at 10:45, and then they'll have a 15-minute break in between, so we can run over a minute or two, but I don't want to go too long.
Okay. Well, I'll give them just 3 or 4 minutes, then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, just take me 2 minutes to
Is
give
there anything I
closing
forgot? Or,
comments. No, I think I did it all. Thank you. This is good.
Now, who are you talking to? What? You're not talking to anybody. Join these guys. U of M. U of M.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you teach
That's part of what I teach. I teach interpersonal skills.
Well, I'm teaching this at my work right now. I've done the leadership ones, and I'm going on the associate.
Where do you work?
Carhartt.
That's right. I forgot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been around 126 years. We're in Dearborn. You can. Yeah. Is there any way to like sit into like a class when you have it? Yeah, I would just dip in and dip out, you know. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get your email and send it, and then Ron.
Got a card?
Yeah, Ron. I'll see if I got it. If not, I'll give you the information.
I'll send you an email.
Yeah. I'm not big on the business cards anymore, so I don't know if I'll have it.
Yes, we do all the.
You know, you just don't carry them anymore.
All right, wrapping up here. Be sure to exchange email addresses so that you can check in on each other in a week. Put it in your calendar to remind you to do it. How are you doing? All right, we have a few minutes. Questions? Any questions before we wrap up? Anything about this or about resources, anything you want to know but are afraid to ask? I want to hear from the introverts first, please. Yes, your name, please? Laura, what do you got to say here? Most of them, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand what you think, because they came to this, yes, yes. Yeah, how do you get the buy-in? Well, and it depends on what position. Are you in a manager, or are you a trainer, or a manager? I mean, I think you just start to do some of the exercises, and you do the exercise I just did, and you say, and maybe you hand out an article or something, a very simple article saying, hey, I'm into this emotional intelligence. It's the best predictor of success. How many of you want to advance? Well, if you're going to advance under my management, you're going to have to improve your emotional intelligence. I'm going to give you some resources. Let's do this little exercise. If you are more interested, we could do this. You can, there's a couple books out. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a real simple book. But people are not interested. They're not likely to read. You have to actually give them feedback about how their lack of emotional intelligence is maybe hindering their progress. So, and then if they're not interested in making progress, there's not a whole lot you could do because, they're not motivated. So, and again, you're better off putting the energy into the people who are into it and helping them improve than trying to correct the people who are not. That's I believe that about strengths too. That we're better off working on our strengths than trying to correct all our weaknesses. Other questions?
Well,
Yeah.
also, if you see someone go off in the environment, that's a good chance. If they do that later, that's a good chance let's prevent that from happening again in that open.
Yeah, I like this idea when you're managing. I don't like performance reviews. I like on the spot teachable moments. So if you frame that we're going to have, if you're going to manage under me, if you're going to work under me, we're going to have teachable moments. It's just like, Coach D'Antonio at Michigan State is not going to wait for a performance review to tell the guy that he missed his block. It's going to come off the field and he's going to have a little teachable moment like, you missed your block, what happened there? I don't know if he's going to talk about it in that calm way, but so I think I like this management by teachable moments, and you tell people like, okay, this is, and then you also could say, this is a teachable moment. Next time it's a problem, So give them one time that you went off. It's a teachable moment. What was going on? Let's analyze it. What were you thinking? What alternatives you had, so on and so forth. Listening to them. Next time that happens, it's going to be a problem. So I'm going to give you one strike, but not three. Other questions? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? That's about it. You guys are ready for a fast break here. And networking. Yeah. So as the course of the day, get to know people today. I think again, this is an important thing. Is make friends and never stop having them as your friends. I mean, I think success in work life has a lot to do with your network and building your network. You never know. Every place you go is a place you should walk away with a new friend. So today, make a goal to meet somebody and get to know them. I'll hang out here for a few minutes if there's any more questions. Somebody mentioned they'd like to come to my class at U of M. I'm happy to have guests in there. So let me know if you want that. Or on my website, which is robpasick.com, I write a weekly blog on this topic called Dr. Rob's Leadership Tips. If you want to be included on that, please email me. I also run a breakfast in Ann Arbor called Leaders Connect, and we have speakers every month. And so, like guys that are near Jackson or whatever are welcome to come to that. Just let me know, and I'll send you an invitation. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again.